Hello again, YouTube. Here we are together again. So today I want to talk about something that is kind of personal to me and is a little probably relatable, or hopefully relatable to a decent swath of you, and something that I'm kind of going through and have been through personally. So yeah, let's jump right in. What I want to talk about today is getting your life together in your 30s or older in 2026 America and beyond. Okay. So yeah, let's be honest here. If you're over 30 right now in America in 2026 and you're unemployed or changing careers or just lost your job or whatever, or basically if you're in a situation to where you're not as far along in life as you thought you'd be by now, okay? Maybe you thought you'd own your own home, maybe you thought you'd be debt-free, married with a family, financially stable. Basically, we can sum all that up to one word, and that is established. Okay, you thought you'd be established by now, and well, you're not. But I'm here to tell you today that there is no that all these milestones that society says you have to meet, like, how many times have you heard, especially some of the older generations say, oh, by the time I was your age, I had my first home, I was married, I had this, I had that. And, the first thing I'm going to tell you is ignore all that, okay? There is no definitive timeline that says by this age you have to have these things checked off in life or you're a failure, okay? That's not true, okay? Success is as much a mindset as it is meeting your own definition of what success is, all right? Now, let's be real. If you're 30 plus right now, and one of the things I just said about not being established applies to you, you're up against a kind of a tough road here. Okay, I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that, oh, it's just a matter of changing your mindset or changing your perspective. No, let's be real. Rent is insane. Groceries cost double what they did 5 years ago. AI is disrupting industries. Every so often, every couple of months, basically, it's like some new AI tool is coming out right now that's making jobs harder to get and making more jobs go away. And you may be wondering to yourself if you just missed the boat. But here's the reality of it. You haven't missed the boat, okay? You may be behind, you may be starting on the back foot, but there's still time, okay? Colonel Sanders started KFC when he was in his 60s, okay? It can be done. Now, it's not going to be easy. Nobody said it was going to be easy. And let's even go so far to say as you might not be Colonel Sanders. You might not be that exception. Chances are most people are going to fall into that average category, okay? So you might not be the next entrepreneur that's going to start the multi-million dollar fast food chain or multi-million dollar business or whatever in your 50s or beyond. But my point about bringing that up is it can be done, okay? There is no age that says that simply because you haven't found success at X age or X time in your life that you're just destined to be a failure from then on out. That's just simply not the case, okay? Getting your life together in your 30s isn't necessarily about playing catch up with your peers. It's about getting strategic and changing whatever you've been doing that's been holding you back in life, whether that's just wasting time. Because, like, for me personally, I can tell you when I look back on my 20s, okay, I'm in my mid 30s. I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but I'm in my mid 30s, and I can tell you that one thing that I look back on is I truly wasted my 20s, okay? My 20s was a time that if I could go back to being 21, knowing what I know now, it'd be a whole nother ball game for me, knowing all the things I know now about what life it really is about and what your 30s can look like when you waste your 20s. So anybody that's in their 20s watching this, get busy, okay? Don't waste your time in your 20s. You don't have all the time in the world. And that 10-year period of your life between 20 and 30 is truly the best time to take a risk or to make some sort of change, to do something. Because when you're 21, you do have time to take a risk, and you can afford to fail at a few things, and you still have plenty of time to bounce back. You have plenty of time to grow your investments or whatever. So I'm not saying burn yourself out. I think that's a big trap that a lot of people fall into when they advise people in their 20s, especially their early 20s. They say, oh, you should work 2 jobs, you should double down on this and that, and just burn yourself at both ends for 10 years, and then you'll be glad you did when you're 30. I don't agree with that. I don't think you should wear yourself into the ground in your 20s. I think your 20s is a time of exploration and a time when you should take as many risks as possible to find out what you're actually good at and what's going to lead you down the path of success moving on. But I don't think working two jobs until you're, burnt at both ends is a good course of action. Let me just be clear on that. But anyways, talking about your 30s, right? So you need to get strategic, right? So you really need to accept the reality of being behind in your 30s in 2026, right? The first step is to stop comparing your life to somebody who turned 30 in 96, all right? Or earlier, because, as I said earlier, it's a completely different economy. It's a completely different housing market. It's a completely different outlook on job stability, and it's just a completely different world than somebody from 20 years ago. It's just completely different, and it's not fair to compare yourself to somebody back then. And that's why I was saying earlier, just ignore all the people who said, "Oh, by the time I was your age, I had this and that." And it's like, well, that's great. You also grew up in the dot-com bubble, or you were also around, for the post-war years, or there's plenty of reasons as to why people that were your age 20, 30, 40 years ago had crazy advantages that you're simply not going to have if you're 30 or older in 2026. You just didn't have those advantages. Now, that's not to say that you can pinpoint all of your shortcomings or failures on simply a bad economy, but I am saying that while you shouldn't use that as a crutch, there is legitimate reasons as to why you may not be as far ahead as somebody else was at the same age 30, 40 years ago, okay? Because the facts is they did grow up in a vastly better economy than what you're exposed to right now. So it's not completely your fault, is what I'm saying. So, don't use that as a crutch or anything, but understand that that is the case, okay? In 2026, the norm is to pivot careers every few years, okay? You have AI, that is a part of life in the workforce now. You have remote jobs and outsourced jobs and globalization that are requiring you to compete not just with the people in your local town or your state or even your own country. You're competing with people globally across the world in every country for a finite amount of jobs that whereas before those jobs at least had to pool from the country they were based in, or usually even the state, or at least the region or something. But now it's like so many of these jobs, like especially with immigration and all these visas, I mean, they're pulling from a global workforce for a handful of good jobs. So understand you're up against a lot more than your predecessors were. Okay, stability looks a lot different today than it did 30 years ago. Okay, you're not necessarily you're not a failure. You're just navigating a completely different system with outdated advice and outdated tools. Okay, so I'm here to tell you what you need to do moving forward. And the first part is to stop taking advice from people that found success at your age 30, 40 years ago, because that was a completely different world than what you're navigating. Okay, and once you accept that, then you can start building smart instead of building based on outdated experiences and outdated information, okay? I'm not saying that there isn't some timeless wisdom, from older people. There certainly is. I mean, you always should work hard and have a good attitude and stuff like that, sure. But, just don't get too caught up on the advice of your elders at this point, because anybody that is telling you that they had something that you don't, and that somehow means that they're better than you, or that you have failed in that regard, again, completely different world than what they were up against. So just always remember that before you're too hard on yourself. Okay, so another thing as well is if you're in your 30s, okay, it might not be the best idea for you to be too idealistic and start chasing big dreams, okay? You need to fix the basics in your life before you really think about taking any huge risk or doing anything too drastic, okay? And the first step to that is you need to have money clarity. Okay, what do I mean by that? And I'm not saying you need a money hack or you need to invest in crypto or a get rich quick scheme or something like that. You need clarity. You need to know the specifics on what you make, what you spend, how much debt you have, and your monthly burn rate. Okay? Those are the things you really need to have exact numbers for, okay? And it's a pretty simple thing to get that, right? I mean, you basically just need to get a bank statement for your monthly expenses, maybe 2 months or maybe even 3, but really just 2 months will probably do fine. And you need to go through there and find exactly how much money you have coming in, exactly how much money you have going out, and you need to know the exact dollar amount of what you're bringing home in take-home pay every month, okay? Take-home pay. One thing that really grinds my gears is when you talk to older people and they ask you how much you make, and you tell them what you make after taxes, and they're like, well, what's your gross pay? And it's like, does it matter? Okay, you don't have access to that. What matters is your take home pay, your after tax, after benefits, after everything else is paid. How much disposable income do you actually have in your pocket? Okay, that's how much money you make, period. Because you don't have access to the other pre-tax money, so that shouldn't even be like a consideration. I don't know why people like focus on that. It truly doesn't matter. Okay, so yeah, get your money situation squared away to the exact dollar amount. You need to know exactly what you're working with, because before you have that information, nothing else we're going to talk about today matters. Okay, you need to have the exact dollar amount for what's coming in, what's going out, how much you make, how much you spend. You need to know that down to the dollar amount on a month-by-month basis, so you can build a budget and make a plan, a realistic plan based on what you actually have at your disposal resource-wise. Okay, because that's pretty important. Without knowing that, it's hard to move forward with anything else. Okay, another thing I want to talk about too, talking about clarity. If you're still partying in your 30s, if you're still staying out late, going to the bars, going to the clubs, or anything like that, you need to stop that now. Okay, that's dumb. I'm just gonna outright say it to you, that's dumb. Okay, in your 30s, it's one thing to kind of be doing that kind of stuff in your early 20s, but if you're older than 25 and you're still living that lifestyle, you are setting yourself up for a bad time, bud. I'm just telling you the truth, okay? You are setting yourself up for a bad time. There's nothing wrong with going out every now and then and having fun every now and then, but by the time you're in your 30s, you need to understand that your health is an asset, okay? The amount of energy that you have to spend on a day is a form of currency, right? Because if you're constantly tired and sluggish and frustrated and stressed, well, you're not going to perform and you're not going to succeed, period. You will not succeed, okay? In your 30s, really in your 20s, really through your whole life, if you want me to be frank, but definitely in your 30s, you need to understand that bad sleep is going to wreck your mood. Bad diet's going to wreck your focus. Okay, lack of exercise is going to kill your energy. It's going to wreck your confidence. Okay, it's just the facts. Okay, you are what you eat. You reap what you sow. So, yeah, I mean, you need to be prioritizing your sleep and your health, and you need to take care of yourself, because if you don't, again, you're not going to succeed. It doesn't matter if you have a great plan if you don't have energy to carry it out and you're not focused, and you got to take care of yourself. Okay, and a lot of people, like, they talk about eating right and stuff, and yeah, that's certainly important, but it doesn't require you to break the bank either. Okay, it simply means that you need to have a realistic diet plan on a realistic budget. I mean, that doesn't mean you have to go to the grocery store and buy fresh produce and steak and all these other expensive things. Believe me, I know groceries are expensive right now. They've nearly doubled in cost. So like, I totally get that it's not cheap to eat truly fresh, healthy food. But everything's a compromise, right? You don't have to have the best of the best everything, but maybe stop eating fast food. Maybe stop going out to eat every night. Maybe all your food that you buy comes from the grocery store. Maybe stop going to the gas station and buying those candy bars and those pizzas and those energy drinks. Maybe stop doing that. Okay, that's a great place to make cuts in your life, and that's something that will immediately pay you back. If you I mean, again, just go to the grocery store, buy yourself canned vegetables, buy yourself ground beef, okay, or chicken, or whatever. You don't have to have fresh cuts. There's plenty of ways that you can buy meat on sale. Like at my grocery store, and I'm sure this is true for most people, they have sales all the time on meat, okay? You can get a family pack of like 2 or 3 pounds of ground beef, which is more than enough to feed, especially if you're just one person. I mean, you make a couple burgers off that, you can probably eat for 10 days off that, 2 burgers a day, plus some canned vegetables. I mean, that's not unrealistic for most people's budget. I mean, unless you're like dirt poor, then you've got another set of problems. But if you even have just a little bit of disposable income, there's really no reason as to why you can't afford a simple diet like that of healthy foods. I mean, it's totally obtainable even in this economy. So that there's no excuse. You just need to be a smart shopper, and you are what you eat. So yeah, take care of yourself. Okay, with health is leverage, and if you don't have health, you're not going to have energy, and you're not going to make it. Okay, so another thing about your 30s, we talked about clarity, all right? And the thing that clarity really gives you is is the ability to take action on something, okay? If you're 30, you need to stop trying to find yourself. You should have found yourself in your 20s, okay? And if you still haven't really figured out who you are in life, then you need to get on that, and you need to stop overthinking things all the time. That's one big thing that when I look back at my own life, that is such a regret I have, is just overthinking, overanalyzing, and not being able to just truly commit to a course of action, okay? And that's why I was saying earlier, if you're in your 30s, that's really the time where you can think. Sorry, not your 30s, your 20s. If you're in your 20s, that's the time when you really need to think things through. That's the time when you need to take risk and experiment and try something out and see if it's for you, okay? There's nothing wrong with experimenting, but by the time you're 30 or 35 even, yeah, you need to stop thinking so much and just start doing and just commit to something. Because here's the thing that I wish I'd known in my 20s is there is no perfect answer. There is no solution that's just going to jump out at you, and you're never going to have this aha moment where you're like, oh, this is the thing I need to be doing. This is the course of action I need to commit to, because it's just, you're never going to find that. You just need to commit to something. Stop thinking about whether it's going to work out or whether it's the best course, and just do it. Just do it. Okay, what you need in your 30s is, you don't need a perfect 5-year plan or a perfect 10-year plan. You need a course of action, and you need to commit. You need a skill that you're improving at. You need an income that's going to continue to grow year over year as you improve at that skill. And you need a direction that's going to compound your success, okay? Skills compound faster than ever nowadays, okay? And that's one good thing about the economy that we're in, and that is one real advantage you do have over people in the past who had much better economic situations than you, is that there is so much available learning nowadays, most of which is free or very cheap, that you can grow your skills even at the someone's age who's 30 plus, where it's a bit harder to learn. You can still compound your skills year over year much quicker than somebody could, say, 30 years ago. That's the truth, okay? Especially with AI and the internet and YouTube now. I mean, if you're really getting at it and you're really spending your time wisely and you really commit a year to learning and improvement, by the end of that year, you'll have made a lot of progress if you really just stick with it and stay focused and take care of yourself and make the right decisions. You will, okay? It's just guaranteed, basically. I mean, you might not be the next leading expert, but it's literally almost guaranteed that you will improve if you just follow those basic tenets of just YouTube, get enough sleep, eat right, stay focused. I mean, it's just guaranteed. Okay, you'll learn to do a lot more with that, okay? Another thing I want to talk about in your 30s, okay, we talked about partying and all that kind of stuff. You need to do away with that, do away with the excess spending. But one thing that you really need to do away with in your 30s, if you haven't already, is you need to become way more selective about the people that you have in your inner circle, okay? If you're still hanging around people who complain constantly, avoid growth, mock your ambitions, and just generally stay stuck in life, you're going to stay stuck in life, okay? You are going to mirror the people that you associate with, okay? That's just really true. And if you're around people who don't really care to do anything and don't really care to improve their situation, they're going to bring you down. I'm telling you, they will bring you down. And yeah, I mean, you've got to kick that habit. You got to get those people out of your life, and that might mean that you lose a lot of friends, okay? And trust me, I understand how isolation in itself is not a good thing, okay? I see a lot of these influencers on YouTube and a lot of these other people talking about, oh, you need to completely isolate yourself and just completely focus on you, and I don't agree with that. I think that's a recipe for failure, okay? Isolation is going to demotivate you. If you're completely alone and you have no social circle and no support system and no people to ever kind of just enjoy being around and kind of live your life a little bit, and positive relationships, you're going to burn out so fast, okay? There is a period of time when you need to go into no man's land, and you need to spend some time alone in solitude. But that's a trap, right? If you spend too much time in that area, especially too much time in your 20s, yeah, you're gonna end up alone, and you're gonna lose motivation. You just will. It is really hard to stay motivated when you have no friends. It is really hard to stay motivated when you have no socialization, when you have no, means to express yourself socially with other people and company, whether that's a relationship or just a good friend or family or something. You need people to socialize with in your life, but you need positive people to socialize with in your life that aren't going to bring you down and aren't going to convince you that any kind of ambition or growth is stupid or foolish, or even worse, you'll have people that try to sabotage that because they don't want you to get ahead. Okay, so you need to think of your environment as something to be designed, okay, and you need to be really conscious of who you're letting in your life. Like, I'm not saying you need to have a huge friend group of like 20, 30 people, but a handful, literally a number of people you can count on one, two hands of quality relationships that are positive and beneficial to you. That's what you need, all right? Ideally, you need about 4 or 5 people in your life. You need 2 or 3 good friends who are going to push you and support you. You need a mentor, even if it's somebody digitally, right? Just there's plenty of people you can reach out to, even if you have to maybe pay them a little just for their time. You need a mentor who can kind of guide you and who can give you the answers you seek, okay? And you can also find both of those things really in a community, okay? That's maybe the better route, especially for somebody in their 30s, because let's be real, it is hard to find close quality friends when you're in your late 20s, early 30s and beyond. Like, it is hard. And especially because people don't have a lot of time to commit to friendships that aren't already established by that time in their life, because they have families and careers and other obligations that just simply take up all their time. And it is hard to form a brand new relationship like that with somebody in your 30s. There's no question. But the kind of life hack there is to find a community of people with similar interest, whether that's a professional community for your job or whether it's a hobby. Get involved in something, even if it's just one day a week or one day every 2 weeks or whenever. You just need something to give you an outlet for socializing, but also an opportunity for networking, to where you can meet people who will enable doors to become open for you through their own connections, that you can then grow your network, okay? And don't think that that's an optional thing, okay? Isolation will destroy your momentum. Community will multiply it, period, okay? Isolation will destroy your momentum, okay? So kind of to wrap it up here, right? You need to redefine what success looks like for you in your 30s, because what success looks like for somebody who's 20 versus somebody who's 30 is usually pretty different, right? I mean, the outcome of what you envision success as can be different, but depending on your situation, usually by the time you're 30, you've got roots somewhere, okay? It's not as easy to uproot yourself when you're 35 compared to when you're 25. It just isn't, okay? And especially if you've got kids or you've got a family or something like that, yeah, you can't just pick up and travel and do what somebody in their early 20s with no obligations can. And that's just the truth. So you need to take all that into consideration and really determine, what are you willing to give up? What is when in your 30s, you're going to have to give something up to find success, right? Whether that's time with your family, or whether that's stability or not having to commute or not having to travel. I mean, something's got to give, okay? Everything that's worth something in life is going to require a sacrifice of your money, your energy, your attention, your time, or likely a combination of all of those things, okay? So just understand that going forward, something's going to have to be given up for you to kind of make up for lost time and find that success. And that's really true for anyone, okay? Success isn't necessarily a giant house, a flashy car, or impressing people you don't care about. It's peace of mind. It's financial breathing room, okay? It's having options. It's not being desperate. It's control over your time. And only you can really decide what you're going to do to achieve that. I can sit here and tell you, the soft skills and the things you need to do to get in the right mindset to achieve that and to make kind of the lifestyle changes, but only you as an individual truly know where your strengths lie, and you need to play to your strengths, okay? If you don't have a mechanical aptitude, well then maybe it's not a good idea to become an electrician, okay? If you don't understand how computers work, then maybe it's a bad idea for you to go into computer science. If you suck at math, then probably don't go into coding, okay? Only you know what your weaknesses and strengths are, and you need to play to your strengths, okay? You need to find out, what am I good at? What do I have an aptitude for? And then find some industry or some skill set that you can grow and play to those strengths, because that's where you're going to find success. Success is about gaining momentum, okay? You don't want to be pushing a boulder uphill in your career and then wondering why you're not making the top wage in that field, okay? Even though you could be giving it all the effort, you may not have the aptitude for it, and that's just reality, okay? You're not going to be good at everything. No one's good at everything. And if you're fighting an uphill battle in your career, you're probably not going to reach the upper echelons of that industry and get all the benefits that you can get from being good at something, okay? So understand that. But yeah, I mean, if you're 30 plus, my advice to you is this: develop a 6 to 12 month plan today. Okay? First thing you need to do is you need to figure out your money situation and start eliminating major debts. Okay? Now, there's different ways you can do that. There is the Dave Ramsey, air quotes, approach there, the debt snowball effect, as they call it, where you essentially start paying off the smallest debts and then slowly work your way towards larger debts. But if you need some kind of psychological boost there to where you're not maybe as disciplined, or you're still developing discipline in your life, that is one way to do it, because you feel like you're getting those small wins along the way. But I'll tell you, mathematically speaking, the best way to do it is to pay off the largest debts first and then start paying off the smaller debts last. Because then once you get that large debt out of the way, then it's easy to pay off the other debts, because you free up a ton of money at once instead of just, $12 here, $10 there, $20 here, whatever. So it's really up to you how you do that, but start eliminating debt. Okay? Second thing you need to do is you need to figure out how to develop a skill. Even if you're doing something online. Now, and I'll say this, at the end of the day, no matter what you're doing, you really need to have some sort of credential for somebody who doesn't know anything about you, i.e. an employer, to give you a shot doing something, okay? I mean, there are certain skills and things you can do that if you can demonstrate that, and I'll say that usually goes a lot further in actual practice. Being good at something is more important than having a piece of paper with your name on it. But yeah, you do need to have some sort of verified credential that's going to be able to let people know that who don't know you and are just looking at you based off of a resume and have never met you, that you've accomplished something and somebody's willing to vouch for you that you actually know what you're talking about before they're going to call you in for an interview. So yeah, build one high income skill and have a credential with it. Okay. Third thing you need to do is you need to focus on your health. Get your health back under control. Start sleeping right. Start eating right. Exercise a little bit. Just take care of yourself. Your health is an asset, and if you have poor health, everything else in your life is going to suffer as a consequence of that, and you will not succeed. Okay. And lastly, you need to cut out toxic relationships in your life, and you need to just generally move forward with people who have a positive growth mindset. Okay, so that's it. It's just building momentum. It's just making better choices. Just because you're in your 30s doesn't mean that you're a failure. It's going to be tougher than if you were in your 20s, yeah. But there's no sense in wishing things were different. There's no sense in wishing you could go back, saying, oh, if only I could go back to this time in my life knowing what I know now. Because you know what? You can't. And you never will be able to. All you have now is the time in front of you. The time behind you is gone forever. But what you do have an advantage in your 30s over someone who's in their 20s is you have the benefit of hindsight. Okay, you've lived the bad experiences, so now you can move forward with that knowledge of what not to do, whereas someone in their 20s is just feeling it out for the first time. Okay, so take the benefit of your past experiences and learn from it and make better choices now. Okay, if you start now, 6 months from now, you'll be another person. 6 months from now, you'll be in a better position. Okay, you might not be exactly where you want to be. A year from now, you're probably not going to be exactly where you want to be. But I guarantee you that if you start making better choices today and you compound that through consistency over time, a year from now, there is a 100% chance that your life will be better than it is today. 100%. Just by taking that step to get into a better position in life, you are guaranteed to have a better life, right? So, yeah, I mean, that's it, right? I mean, if you're over 30 watching this, it's not too late. You're not broken, you're not behind. You're just at the age where, where comfort starts costing more than change. Your 20s were exploration, right? Your 30s need to be the decade of your execution. Start moving forward. Stop waiting for that perfect solution to jump right at you and just do something, anything. Because no matter what you do, as long as you are moving forward, you'll make progress and you'll develop a skill and you will improve your life. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen in a month. It might not even happen in a year, but you will make progress. You will build momentum and you will improve your life. Okay. In America, in this day and age, in 2026, the people who win, they're usually not the smartest. Okay. They're just the people that they're the most disciplined and they're willing to take risk and they just keep going. Okay. Just keep going. You don't have to have a genius IQ. You don't have to have, to the best of the best. You just need to find something, be consistent and be disciplined and just follow through. Okay? And that's it. So if this helps you, then please subscribe, because here at this channel we're trying to build better lives, not highlight reels. So I'll see you in the next one. That's my rant.
Loser, loser.